How do we define a human? Is it our bodies? Is it our physical traits? Is it our mental faculties, our cognitive abilities? Is it the way that we do and think about things that distinguishes us from animals and computers? Now, no matter what you think the criteria might be, the act of defining human is going to be exponentially more and more difficult and obscure because of the evolution of technology and this concept known as transhumanism. Now, by theory, transhumanism is really this belief that humans, we are able, and at some point we will inevitably outgrow our physical and mental limitations and evolve to something else entirely because of the integration with technology. Now, as I say that, it might conjure up for you this very, very creative and imaginative idea of this cyberpunk world where we end up being cyborgs with reticles for eyes and metallic parts in our bodies. And of course, this very grandiose, perhaps, perception that we'll be able to do superhuman things like leap bounds into buildings, run like a cheetah, download data into our minds. But as fictionalized as that seems, transhumanism and its inevitability is already here. We can actually see it in how society has evolved in every facet. The evolution of technology has always been and has always directly and indirectly affected our own evolution and slowly made us much more transhuman. Take, for example, something as simple as the development of drugs, in terms of drugs for our health over the past few centuries. All that and its objective has really had a very direct impact on helping us not only overcome some of our physical ailments, but really our physical limitations. Take, for example, the drugs that we take to fight off depression or high blood pressure. What these drugs are able to do is actually help us overcome the physical limitations that our bodies might naturally have, these inclinations that we might have, in a way that is actually unnatural. For example, a person that might be on Prozac, a person that might be on a drug to help with depression, could suddenly become a person, or at least as they're taking drugs, that could become a person that's very happy and basically overcome the physical ailment that they have, but the limitation that they have as being this very unhappy person, fundamentally and significantly transforming them to something else entirely. And of course, we have also seen people who take Ritalin to help them improve and enhance their cognitive functions in terms of their attention, and a lot of people might even take that to help them, for example, take exams, help them focus. These things are actually helping us overcome our own human condition, but also become something else more than we usually are. Then, of course, we can look directly at, for example, drugs that really do enhance us, performance-enhancing drugs that we have seen, some being illicitly used in the arena of sports, and of course, more privately, perhaps in the area of sexuality, we've seen the same thing. Drugs have been developed helping us achieve that. But it goes beyond drugs. Think about, for example, even in healthcare, the procedures that we go through, surgical and otherwise, but in terms of surgical, people who are born with bad eyesight, for example, if they're myopic, like myself, they're able to do laser eye procedure that would allow them to actually gain really good vision. And although by birth they might actually be born short-sighted, they are able to overcome that. And what's actually happening medically is that the eyesight's actually become much better, almost like totally refreshed in a way that they would not be able to do in the human condition. But of course, even consider the area of prosthetics. People who might have prosthetics in the body now calling and harking to the ideas of, we're mentioning, this cyberpunk world. But this was actually quite a controversy. In 2012 Olympics, the Olympian Oscar Pistorius actually had a prosthetic leg, and he competed, and his leg was actually amputated because of congenital defect. But there was a lot of debate on whether it was actually fair that he had the prosthetic leg, because of course it does not actually ache and feel the same sense of fatigue as a normal leg. And we are seeing all these things already happening, which is these brief things I've mentioned, which directly impact the human body, but really the physical conditions that we have. But it goes much more than that, especially in a very exponential way when you move your focus away into the developments that have been happening in the digital world, which is of course something that has been developing in this limitless, entirely unprecedented way. Consider how every day when you wake up, you carry your phone with you. And can you imagine your day without your phone? You can't. Your phone is an extension of yourself. It allows you to do so many things, to connect with your family, your friends, to do your work, to access the news, to do all these things, to entertain yourself and really to participate in society. But what we don't realize is that although not directly integrated to us, the phone has actually become integrated by function. And the ability that the phone grants for us is actually truly superhuman if you really, really think about it. For example, you are able to actually participate in communication, human communication, in a way that was not physically possible before. You are able to, of course, call up your friend, video call, chat with them, leave comments, and just be there with them, despite the fact that physically you'd be unable to do so. And beyond that, it also allows you to go beyond what that grey matter in your mind is able to do. With your phone, you're able to be everywhere at once and know everything. You're able to access news apps and know what's going on around you. At the same time, also as if in a fundamental way, gain access to all sorts of information and really participate in the wider fabric. And this is very much a part of you that helps you overcome not just your physical limitation, but also the mental limitations of what makes you human. And this is truly quite fictional if you think about it. Same as science fiction when you think about how much digital technologies have integrated into our lives, and also how much it's allowed us to do things that we would not ordinarily be able to do. The only thing separating us from truly this purest definition of a transhuman is, of course, the direct integration of these technologies into our body. But despite that, and regardless of that, the integration is already there from this functional standpoint. And it's really hard to imagine our lives without these things. At the same time, how much our lives have been enhanced by it. The very interesting thing, of course, is now these technologies are getting more and more integrated into our lives, and we will soon experience it in a more direct way. Of course, we know about works in augmented reality, virtual reality, but also works being developed in terms of actually integrating interfaces of technology into our actual bodies so that we are able to directly access it. Not to mention, of course, more virtual developments in the area, for example, the metaverse and these other things that we heard. And it really does make you wonder, as all these things are happening, what really makes us human? And that is the very fascinating thing. As these things are fundamentally transforming us and the things that we can do and the ways that we live our life, and again, hard to imagine life without these things. At that point, what makes us human? That is a narrative that I don't think many of the technologists and, of course, the innovators, of course, really all of us have really thought about. As we've embraced these technologies and how they really fundamentally changed us, we've not really considered what it means to who we are and what we really want to be. And of course, with many things in life, we can also imagine the more concerning sides of really transhumanism, in the sense of, for example, the question of inequality, but also the question of more or less ethics and the sort of society we'd like to develop as transhumans, people with more capabilities than before, of course, certainly more than our ancestors. This is something that we can really think about the next time when we really look into the mirror. And would we still recognize ourselves? More importantly, who do we see ourselves being tomorrow? And what sort of future do we see ourselves leading?